Let's be honest for a sec. Most of us have been learning English in the most awkward, slow-motion way possible, converting every single sentence from English to our native language, then converting our answer back again like some glitchy Google Translate inside our heads. And we don't even realize how badly this screws up our fluency. It makes us pause before speaking, it makes simple conversations feel stressful, and it forces our brain to take the longest possible route just to say the most basic words. So today, we're going to expose this hidden villain that keeps you stuck, translation thinking. Because here's the truth no teacher says out loud, English only becomes fluent the day you stop translating it. The moment you begin thinking directly in English, everything changes. You stop overthinking grammar, you stop freezing mid-sentence, and you start speaking faster, smoother, and way more naturally. It feels weird at first, like taking off training wheels, but once your brain adjusts, English begins to flow the same way your mother tongue does, automatically. In this video, we're going to break down why translation keeps you stuck, how to train your brain to think in English, and how to start speaking confidently without depending on your native language even for a second. If you're tired of knowing English but being unable to speak it, this video will flip that switch forever. Stick till the end, your fluency upgrade starts right now. The mindset shift you gotta make. Bro, the biggest glow up in your English journey literally starts in your head. Most people try to learn English by constantly dragging every sentence back to their native language first, like translating word by word before they speak or think. That looks harmless, but low-key it's the real villain that slows down your fluency. When you depend on translation, your brain treats English like a puzzle instead of a natural language. You pause before speaking, you panic for meanings, and your mind always feels like it's buffering. If you're serious about sounding smooth, confident, and fluent, the first thing you need is a mindset that says, English is not something I convert, it's something I think in. Think about how kids learn their first language. Nobody sits them down with a dictionary or asks them to convert sentences before speaking. They listen, absorb, copy patterns, and slowly start forming sentences on autopilot. That's how language is meant to be processed, naturally, directly, without an interpreter sitting inside your skull. But when grown-ups learn English, they boot up this internal translator that forces every thought to travel from English native language back to English before their mouth opens. That detour slows everything down. Removing that translator is the first power move you need to make. This mindset shift also kills a huge insecurity most beginners have, the fear of sounding wrong. When you translate, you literally trap yourself into trying to make perfect sentences, because you're worried your native version must match English 100%. But communication is not about perfection. It's about being understood. Even if your English is a lil messy at the start, it's still better than staying silent and translating forever. When you stop translating, you start making mistakes faster, and that's exactly why you improve faster. Mistakes mean reps, and reps equals fluency. So from now on, tell yourself straight, English isn't a foreign guest in your brain, it's a second roommate. You don't need permission slips or Google Translate to talk. You need immersion, confidence, and a brain that thinks directly in English. That mindset is the foundation. If you nail this part, the next 9 steps are gonna hit even harder. Why translating slows your brain down. Let's get brutally real, translating everything inside your head is like running a marathon with a backpack full of bricks. The process feels simple at first. Hear English. Convert to native language. Understand. Convert response back to English. But your brain is doing double work every second. That's why beginners speak slow, hesitate mid-sentence, forget words, and feel mentally tired after even a short English convo. It's not because they're dumb or bad at English. It's because their brain is working overtime instead of going straight to the point. The craziest thing? You end up building 2 languages instead of 1. Instead of developing a clean English speaking system, you create a dependency where English always sits behind your mother tongue like a shadow. And if that shadow disappears, like when you don't know how to translate something, you freeze. That mental loading symbol is why people say, I understand English, but I can't speak it. It's literally the translation habit holding them hostage. Another big problem is that language is not math. You can't always match one word or sentence to another language perfectly. English has its own logic, tone, structure, sarcasm, slang, and flow. When you try translating word for word, you break the meaning. That's why Google Translate sometimes spits out nonsense, because languages don't line up like puzzle pieces. When you stop translating, you finally start understanding English from inside the language, not from somewhere outside. Your brain is insanely powerful at adaptation. If you force it to think directly in English, it rewires itself to shortcut the process. At first, it feels weird and slow, like riding a bicycle without support wheels. But the moment your brain realizes there's no backup language to lean on, it speeds up. That's how fluency works. You stop converting thoughts and start expressing thoughts. So yeah, translate-only learners sound robotic, halting, and uncertain, not because they lack talent, but because their brain is stuck in two-language mode. If you want fluent, effortless, smooth English, you gotta switch to direct mode. Think in English, the ultimate power move. Here's the plot twist nobody tells beginners. Fluency doesn't start when you speak English. It starts when you think in English. You can literally speak only as fast as your thoughts form. If your ideas are brewing in your native language, but your mouth has to output English, boom, instant lag, hesitation, awkward pauses. But when your thoughts themselves start showing up in English, your mouth just follows the script already running in your brain. That's when speaking starts to feel natural instead of stressful. Thinking in English sounds like some elite-level skill reserved for pros, but it's actually way simpler. You don't need to craft long emotional speeches in your head. You start small, like describing things you're doing. I'm walking, I'm hungry, I need water, that guy is yelling. These tiny sentences look basic, but they force your brain away from translation mode. And once your brain tastes that freedom, it doesn't want to go back. Slowly, sentences get longer, thoughts get clearer, and English becomes your brain's default commentator. The real magic shows up in everyday chaos. When someone speaks fast, asks a sudden question, or throws slang at you. Translators inside your head panic in those moments. They can't process speed, tone, or humor. But if you're already thinking in English, you catch the meaning instantly. You don't freeze, you respond. That's when you feel fluency kicking in, when English becomes instinct instead of effort. Thinking in English also builds confidence like crazy. You stop second-guessing words. You stop fearing mistakes. You speak more often, you practice more naturally, and you start sounding like someone who owns the language rather than someone visiting it part-time. Fluency becomes a vibe, not a chore. So if you ever feel stuck, remind yourself. The problem isn't vocabulary, grammar, or accent, it's that your brain is still using the wrong operating system. Switch the OS. Think in English first. Speak English next. Translate never. Immersion. Surround yourself with English. If you keep living in a world where your brain only touches English during study time, of course you'll slip back into translating mode. Your brain follows the environment it swims in, and if that environment is 99% native language, English will always feel like a side quest instead of the main mission. Immersion flips that reality. It tricks your brain into treating English like something normal, regular, and familiar, instead of a foreign visitor you only see on weekends. Immersion doesn't mean moving to London or New York, chill. It means building a mini English world around you right where you are. Switch your phone to English. Watch content without subtitles or with English subtitles only. Follow creators who speak fast, simple, or slang heavy, whatever feels engaging. Read signs, menus, comments, memes. Let your brain constantly bump into English. When English becomes the background noise of your life, your brain stops resisting it and starts absorbing it naturally. The wild thing about immersion is how sneaky it is. You don't even notice you're learning. You start understanding phrases without thinking. You pick up structures without studying grammar. You start guessing meanings of unknown words from context instead of panicking. That's the same process babies go through. Their world is full of language long before they know what words mean, and eventually their brain connects the dots on its own. You can recreate that exact learning method for yourself. no textbooks, no translation required. And here's the real win. Immersion keeps your motivation alive. Studying English like homework drains your energy fast. But absorbing English through your hobbies, music, podcasts, games, shows, turns learning into lifestyle. You stop making time to study because you're always learning without even trying. When English becomes your environment instead of a subject, fluency stops being a dream and starts becoming a default. Build vocabulary the smart way, not the school way. A lot of learners flex that they know hundreds of English words, but when it's time to actually speak, their brain goes blank like a crashed laptop. The reason is simple: they collected vocabulary like Pokemon cards instead of learning how to use it. When you memorize a word and immediately match it to your native language, your brain locks that word behind a translation gate. You don't think of hungry, you think of the word in your language first, and then convert it. That's why speaking feels slow and messy. You're not short on vocabulary, you're stuck in a system that forces your brain to do double work before every sentence. Instead of mugging up random lists, start learning words inside real English situations. When you hear the word rush in "I'm in a rush, don't rush me," and "he rushed to finish his homework," your brain automatically connects the meaning through patterns. You didn't translate a single time, you felt the meaning inside English itself. That's how native speakers learn a language. They don't sit there collecting definitions or matching synonyms, they absorb words through stories, conversations, and repetition. When your brain sees a word acting in sentences like a character in a movie, it understands not only what the word means, but how it behaves. And the best part? Vocabulary learned in context sticks longer, feels more natural, and comes out faster when speaking. When you learn words by translating, they stay trapped in your memory. When you learn them directly through English, they become tools your brain can grab instantly. So stop treating vocabulary like a homework assignment and start seeing it as part of your daily world, through memes, reels, music, shows, podcasts, and real conversations. When you build vocab the smart way, you don't just understand more words. You level up your fluency without even realizing it.